My name is Jennifer, and I thought I had my life together. My cozy Seattle home, my steady job, my loving boyfriend. But when my estranged sister Melissa showed up unannounced, claiming my space like it was hers, everything unraveled. She wasn't just crashing on my couch, she was hiding secrets, forging lies, and tearing our family apart. I fought to take back my home and uncover the truth, but the deeper I dug, the darker it got. Could I save my family from her schemes without losing myself? Watch to find out how far I went to reclaim what's mine. I never thought a single dinner could change everything. That night, as I drove home through the rain-slicked streets of Seattle, my mind was still on the spicy pad thai I'd shared with Charles at our favorite hole in the wall. My life felt solid. My job as a graphic designer paid the bills, my little craftsman bungalow was my sanctuary, and Charles, with his easy laugh and steady hands, made every day brighter. At 32, I'd carved out a corner of the world that felt like mine, but the second I pulled into my driveway, that world tilted. A battered U-Haul truck squatted in my spot, its back door yawning open. Boxes were stacked haphazardly on my front porch, half soaked by the drizzle. My heart thudded. Had I been robbed? I grabbed my phone, ready to dial 911 when the front door of my house swung open, and there she was, Melissa, my sister, my estranged sister, who I hadn't seen in 3 years. Not since that Christmas, when she stormed out after a screaming match with Mom. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she wore a smug grin, like she belonged there. "Jen, you're home!" she called as if I'd been expecting her. She sauntered out, barefoot, wearing my old college sweatshirt. My stomach twisted. What was she doing here? I hadn't invited her. I hadn't even known she was in town. "Melissa, what the hell?" I said, my voice sharper than I meant. I stepped out of my car, rain dotting my jacket. "Why are you in my house?" She tilted her head, that old familiar pout flashing across her face. "Mom and Dad didn't tell you? I'm moving in. Just for a bit. You know, tough times." She waved a hand like it was no big deal, like she hadn't just invaded my life. I stood there, frozen, as she turned and disappeared back inside. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Mom. "Be kind to your sister. She's had a rough go. We'll explain later." Explain? Explain what? My parents lived 3 hours away in Olympia, and they'd never mentioned Melissa coming back. Last I heard, she was in Portland, chasing some vague dream of making it big. We'd never been close, not since we were kids. She was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, while I was the one picking up the pieces when her plans fell apart. And now she was here, in my space, without so much as a phone call. I stormed inside, my boots leaving wet prints on the hardwood I'd spent months refinishing. The living room was a mess, my throw pillows shoved into a corner, a suitcase spilling clothes onto my couch. Melissa was in the kitchen, rummaging through my fridge, humming like she owned the place. "Got any wine?" she asked, not even looking up. "Melissa, stop," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. "You can't just show up and move in. This is my house. You need to leave." She turned, holding a yogurt I hadn't even opened yet. "Oh, Jen, don't be dramatic. It's temporary. I got evicted, okay? My landlord was a jerk. I just need a place to crash, until I figure things out." Her eyes flicked over me, sizing me up. "You've got all this space. You won't even notice I'm here." Evicted? That didn't add up. Melissa always had a knack for landing on her feet. New boyfriends, new schemes, new excuses. I wanted to scream, to drag her and her boxes back to that truck. But the weight of Mom's text pressed on me. "Be kind." I could hear her voice, that same tone she used when I was a kid, and Melissa borrowed my toys, my clothes, my life. I was always supposed to share, to bend, to make room for her. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "How long is temporary?" I asked, my voice tight. She shrugged, popping a grape into her mouth. "A month, maybe 2. Relax, Jen. We're sisters. This'll be fun." "Fun?" My chest tightened. This wasn't fun. This was an invasion. I thought of my quiet evenings with Charles, my carefully curated life, now upended by someone who'd always taken what she wanted. I didn't know what Melissa was running from, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her take my home, my peace, without a fight. I needed answers, and I needed them fast, before she turned my life upside down. The next morning, I woke to the smell of burnt toast and the clatter of dishes in my kitchen. My head throbbed from a night of tossing, replaying Melissa's casual invasion. My cozy Seattle bungalow, once my haven, felt like a stranger's house. I pulled on a hoodie and steeled myself. I had to set boundaries, make her understand this wasn't her playground. But as I stepped into the living room, my resolve faltered. Melissa had already left her mark. My vintage coffee table was buried under her magazines, and my favorite armchair was draped with her clothes. She was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes in my skillet, wearing my apron like she'd lived here forever. "Morning, Jen," she chirped, oblivious to my glare. "Want some? I'm making breakfast." "No, I don't," I snapped, crossing my arms. "Melissa, we need to talk. You can't just take over my house. This isn't okay." She rolled her eyes, that same pout from last night flickering. "God, you're so uptight. I'm just cooking. Chill." She slid a pancake onto a plate, my plate, and sat at the table, scrolling her phone. I noticed a stack of unopened mail by her elbow, some envelopes marked urgent. My skin prickled. "What's all that?" I asked, nodding at the pile. She shrugged, not looking up. "Just stuff from Portland. Nothing you need to worry about." Her tone was too casual, like she was hiding something. I stepped closer, catching a glimpse of a bank logo before she swept the envelopes into her bag. "Anyway," she said, changing the subject, "I'm jobless right now. Got unfairly fired, and my landlord evicted me for no reason. So I'm staying here till I get back on my feet. You're cool with that, right?" My jaw dropped. "No, I'm not cool with that. You didn't even ask. How long are you planning to stay?" She sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. "I told you, a month or two, maybe longer." "I don't know, Jen. Life's messy." She took a bite of pancake, chewing slowly. "Mom and Dad said you'd help. They're worried about me." I wanted to scream. Of course, she'd gone to our parents, playing the victim. They always bought her sob stories. Growing up, Melissa could crash a car, flunk a class, or borrow money, and somehow I'd end up apologizing for not being supportive enough. But this was my home, my life. I wasn't bending this time. "Melissa," I said, my voice low, "you need to start looking for a place. I'll give you a week to figure it out." She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "A week? Good luck with that. I'm not going anywhere." She stood, leaving her plate on the table, and brushed past me. "Oh, and I invited a few friends over tonight. Hope that's not a problem." "Friends? In my house?" I followed her to the living room, my anger boiling. "You can't just invite people over without asking." She turned, her eyes narrowing. "Jen, stop acting like you own the world. This is family. We share." She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. "I'm running errands. See you later." The door slammed, leaving me in the wreckage of my morning. My hands shook as I sank onto the couch. She wasn't just crashing, she was taking over, piece by piece. I thought of those urgent envelopes, her vague excuses. What was she running from? I needed to know before she dragged me down with her. I grabbed my phone and texted Charles. "Can you come over? It's getting worse." He replied instantly, "On my way." Knowing he'd be here steadied me, but only a little. I glanced at the mess Melissa left, my home no longer mine. This wasn't just about space, it was about control. I had to take it back, no matter what it took. I stood in my living room, staring at the chaos Melissa left behind. Her magazines were strewn across my coffee table, and a pair of her sneakers sat by the door, mocking me. My Seattle bungalow, once my refuge, felt like a battlefield. Charles arrived within the hour, his calm presence a lifeline. As we sat on the couch, I spilled everything. Melissa's invasion, her vague excuses, those urgent envelopes. His brow furrowed, but he listened, his hand warm on mine. "Jen, this isn't just her being flaky," he said, his voice steady. "She's hiding something. Did you see what was in those letters?" I shook my head. She grabbed them too fast. But they were from a bank, marked urgent. "Something's off, Charles." He nodded, his jaw tight. "We need to figure out what she's running from. Let's check her stuff carefully." I hesitated. Snooping felt wrong, but Melissa's takeover was suffocating me. If she was bringing trouble to my doorstep, I had to know. We waited until she left for her errands again, her laughter echoing as she invited more friends over for tonight. The second her car pulled away, I led Charles to the guest room where her boxes were piled. Her suitcase was open, spilling clothes and random trinkets. I spotted a crumpled envelope peeking from under a scarf. My heart raced as I picked it up. A collection notice from a bank in Portland addressed to Melissa at my address. My stomach dropped. "She's using my house to dodge debt collectors," I whispered, handing it to Charles. He scanned it, his eyes narrowing. "This says she owes $12,000. And look, there's more." He pulled out another letter, this one warning of legal action if she didn't respond. "Jen, she's not just crashing, she's using you as a shield." My mind spun. How long had she been planning this? I thought of our childhood, how she'd borrow my things and never give them back, how she'd charm her way out of trouble while I cleaned up her messes. But this was different, darker, calculated. I felt betrayed, not just by her, but by our parents for enabling her. Why hadn't they warned me? As we dug deeper, we found a receipt for a storage unit in Portland, paid just days ago. "Why's she storing stuff if she's broke?" Charles asked, holding up the slip. Good question. My home wasn't just a hideout, it was part of her plan. I wanted to confront her, but I needed more than a few letters to prove she was scheming. That night, her friends arrived. Loud, unfamiliar faces, filling my house with laughter and music. Melissa played the perfect host, pouring drinks from my wine stash, rearranging my furniture to make space. I stood in the corner, invisible in my own home, my anger simmering. She caught my eye and smirked, raising a glass as if toasting her victory. I forced a smile, but inside, I was raging. This was my space, my life, and she was stealing it. I slipped away to call Mom, hoping for answers. "Jennifer, be patient," she said, her voice heavy with guilt. "Melissa's struggling. She needs family." I bit my tongue, wanting to scream about the debt collectors, the lies. But I knew Mom would defend her. She always did. As the party roared on, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to kick Melissa out, I was going to expose her. Whatever she was hiding, I'd find it. My home, my peace, my life, they were worth fighting for, and I was done playing nice. The morning after Melissa's party, my Seattle bungalow reeked of wine and strangers' perfume. Empty bottles cluttered my counter, my rug stained. I scrubbed dishes she'd used, my anger boiling. This home was my sanctuary, built with years of hard work. Now, it felt like hers. Worse, she turned our parents against me. I called Mom, hoping for clarity. "Jennifer, you're too hard on her," she said. "Melissa says you're cold, pushing her out when she's got nowhere to go. Be the bigger person." My heart sank. Melissa had spun me as the villain. I mentioned the debt notices, but Mom cut me off. "She's struggling, Jen. Give her time." I hung up, furious. Melissa wasn't just crashing. She was manipulating everyone. Charles was digging into that storage unit receipt, but I couldn't wait. I found her on my couch, scrolling her phone. "We need to talk," I said. "You're turning our parents against me, using my house to dodge debts. This stops now." She looked up, eyes wide with fake innocence. "Jen, I'm just trying to get my life together. You've got it all. Job, house, boyfriend. I've got nothing. Why can't you help?" Her words stung, echoing old fights where she'd twist things to make me the bad guy. "Don't play the victim," I snapped. "I saw the bank notices. You're hiding from debt collectors, using my address. Get out." She laughed, sharp. "Paranoid much? Those letters are a mix-up. Mom and Dad said I can stay." "What, you'll throw me out?" She stood, daring me. I wanted to drag her out, but that'd prove her point. "This isn't over," I said, turning away. Later, I overheard her on the phone, whispering about keeping things quiet. My skin prickled. What was she hiding? When she left for errands, I slipped into the guest room. Under her clothes, I found a locked metal box. My hands shook as I pried it open, revealing bank statements in Dad's name, forged with fake balances. My heart raced. Was she stealing from him? I snapped photos, my mind spinning. This was bigger than debts. Melissa was scheming against our family, and I had to stop her. But would Mom and Dad believe me over her? I sat on the floor of my Seattle bungalow, the forged bank statements spread before me, their lies glaring under the lamplight. My hands trembled as I stared at Dad's name on those papers, the numbers fabricated, the accounts alien. Melissa wasn't just dodging debts, she was targeting our family. My home, once my sanctuary, felt like a trap she'd sprung. I needed to know how deep this went, but fear gnawed at me. What if I confronted her, and she twisted it again, making me the villain? Charles came over that evening, his steady presence grounding me. I showed him the photos of the documents. His jaw tightened as he scrolled through them. "Jen, this isn't just sloppy paperwork," he said. "These are deliberate forgeries. She's using your dad's identity for something big." He paused, meeting my eyes. "We need to find out what." I nodded, my resolve hardening. "She mentioned a storage unit in Portland. Maybe there's more there." Charles offered to dig into it, his tech skills sharper than mine. "I'll check public records, see if her name's tied to anything shady," he said. "But be careful. She's already got your parents on her side." The next day, Melissa was out job hunting, or so she claimed. Her absence gave me a breather, but her presence lingered in the displaced furniture, the dishes she never washed. I tried to work on a design project, but my mind kept drifting to those statements. Why Dad? He was retired, living off a modest pension with Mom in Olympia. What could she gain? Charles called that afternoon, his voice tense. "I found something," he said. "Melissa was part of a failed business in Portland, a shady real estate venture. She used fake collateral, including assets tied to your parents' names. It collapsed, and she owes investors thousands. The storage unit might hold more evidence." My stomach churned. She wasn't just hiding. She was scheming to drag our family down with her. I thought of Dad, his quiet pride in providing for us, and Mom, always defending Melissa. They didn't deserve this. I wanted to drive to Portland, break into that unit, but I knew I needed more than suspicion to act. That night, Melissa waltzed in, humming, a shopping bag swinging from her arm. "Found a cute boutique," she said, tossing it onto my couch. I stared, incredulous. She was broke, dodging debts, yet splurging. "How are you paying for that?" I asked, my voice sharp. She smirked. "Don't worry, Jen. I've got my ways." Her flippancy ignited my anger, but I swallowed it. Confronting her now would tip her off. Instead, I watched her closer, noting how she locked her phone, how she avoided questions about her plans. I lay awake that night, my mind racing. The forged statements, the failed business. Pieces of a puzzle I didn't fully grasp. But one thing was clear. Melissa wasn't here to rebuild her life. She was here to take ours apart. I had to outsmart her, protect my family, and reclaim my home. The fight was just beginning, and I wasn't backing down. The weight of those forged bank statements sat heavy in my chest, like a stone I couldn't dislodge. My Seattle bungalow, once my haven, felt like a stage for Melissa's schemes. Every creak of the floorboards, every glimpse of her smug smile reminded me she was unraveling my life. Charles's discovery about her failed Portland business, using fake collateral tied to our parents' names, pushed me past caution. I couldn't let her destroy my family. I needed Mom and Dad to see the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I arranged a family intervention, inviting them to my house under the guise of a reconciliation dinner. My stomach churned as I set the table, my hands shaking as I placed forks beside plates. Charles squeezed my shoulder, his steady gaze a reminder I wasn't alone. "You've got the evidence," he whispered. "They'll have to listen." But doubt gnawed at me. Melissa had always been their golden child, her tears more convincing than my facts. Mom and Dad arrived from Olympia, their faces weary from the drive. Mom hugged me, her perfume familiar, but her eyes darted to Melissa, who was already playing the part, helping with dishes, laughing softly, as if she hadn't turned my home into her hideout. Dad sat quietly, his hands folded, looking older than I remembered. I hated dragging them into this, but I had no choice. Dinner was tense, the clink of silverware loud in the silence. Melissa chatted about job prospects, her voice bright, but I saw her glance at me, calculating. I waited until we'd cleared the plates, my heart pounding. "Mom, Dad," I said, standing, "there's something you need to see." I pulled out my phone, showing the photos of the forged bank statements. Dad's name, fake accounts, impossible balances. "Melissa's been using your identity. She's tied you to a failed business in Portland, and she's hiding debts here, in my house." The room froze. Mom's eyes widened and Dad's mouth tightened. Melissa's face shifted from surprise to hurt, her eyes welling up. "Jen, how could you?" she gasped. "Those aren't real. You're making this up to get rid of me." She turned to Mom, her voice breaking. "She's been cruel since I got here, pushing me out when I'm trying to start over." My throat tightened. She was doing it again, twisting everything. "They're not fake," I said, my voice shaking. "I found them in her things. She's been dodging debt collectors, using my address, and Charles found records. She used your names for fake collateral in a scam that tanked." Dad shook his head, his voice low. "Jennifer, this is a serious accusation. Melissa wouldn't do that." Mom reached for Melissa's hand, her eyes on me, pleading. "Jen, why would you hurt your sister like this? She's struggling. We raised you to support each other." I felt like I'd been slapped. "I'm not the one hurting anyone," I said, my voice rising. "She's lying to you, to all of us. Look at the evidence!" But Mom's gaze stayed soft, fixed on Melissa, who was now crying, her shoulders shaking. Dad stood, his face hard. "Enough, Jennifer. We'll talk about this later. You're upsetting your mother." I stood there, stunned. As they comforted Melissa, my proof dismissed. Charles touched my arm, but I barely felt it. My own parents, choosing her lies over me. Melissa's sobs were loud, but her eyes met mine for a split second. Sharp, triumphant. She'd won this round, but I wasn't done. Those documents were real, and I'd make them see it, even if it tore us apart. As they left, Mom whispered, "Just give her a chance, Jen." I watched their car disappear into the Seattle rain, my heart heavy but my resolve stronger. Melissa's schemes were bigger than I'd thought, and I was running out of time to stop her. My home, my family, they were mine to protect, and I'd fight harder than ever. The sting of my parents' disbelief lingered like a bruise, heavy and raw. My Seattle bungalow, once my safe haven, felt like a cage where Melissa held the key. That intervention dinner had backfired, her crocodile tears drowning out my truth. The forged bank statements, Charles's findings about her Portland scam. None of it mattered when Mom and Dad saw her as the victim. But that glint in Melissa's eyes, that fleeting smirk, told me she was playing a deeper game. I wasn't just fighting for my home anymore. I was fighting for my family's future. I paced my living room, the hardwood creaking under my feet, as Charles sat on the couch, his laptop open. "Jen, we need more than documents," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "Something undeniable. She's got your parents wrapped around her finger." He was right. Evidence wasn't enough if they wouldn't listen. I needed to catch her in the act, expose her lies in her own words. The idea hit me like a spark. Record her. If I could get her to admit her schemes, Mom and Dad would have to believe me. It felt sneaky, almost wrong, but Melissa had left me no choice. She'd invaded my life, turned my family against me. I wasn't playing fair anymore. I was playing to win. The next evening, Melissa was in the guest room, talking loudly on her phone. I lingered outside, my heart pounding, my phone's voice recorder app ready. Through the cracked door, I heard her laugh, sharp and cold. "Yeah, they're clueless," she said. "I've got Jen's place locked down, and the old man's accounts are perfect. They'll never see it coming." My breath caught. She was talking about Dad, about her plan. I hit record, my hands trembling. She kept going, oblivious. "The business tanked, sure, but I'm not done. I'll squeeze what I can from them, make them see me for once. Jen thinks she's so smart, but she's got nothing." Her words sliced through me, rage and betrayal mixing in my chest. She wasn't just hiding debts. She wanted to bankrupt our parents, to hurt us, to prove some twisted point. I stopped recording, my mind reeling. This was it. Proof. In her own voice. I slipped away, my heart racing, and played the clip for Charles. His eyes widened as her voice filled the room, cruel and clear. "This is huge, Jen," he said. "But be careful. If she finds out, she'll spin it against you. I nodded, knowing the risk. Melissa was slippery, always one step ahead. But this recording was my weapon, and I'd use it to take her down. The next morning, she was back to her act, making coffee in my kitchen, humming like nothing was wrong. "You're quiet today, Jen," she said, smirking. "Something on your mind?" I forced a smile, my phone burning in my pocket with her confession. "Just thinking," I said, my voice steady. "Things are gonna change around here." Her eyes narrowed, but she shrugged and walked away. I felt a surge of power, like I'd finally gained ground. The recording was my positive twist, a lifeline to reclaim my home and family. But I had to be smart, show it to Mom and Dad at the right moment, when Melissa couldn't wiggle out. I planned to invite them over again, this time with Charles as backup, to play the clip and force them to face her lies. But doubt crept in. What if they still chose her? What if this broke our family beyond repair? I pushed the fear down, focusing on my goal: expose Melissa, protect my parents, take back my life. She'd underestimated me, but I was done being the bigger person. This was my fight, and I was ready to swing. My Seattle bungalow felt like a battleground, every corner tainted by Melissa's schemes. That secret recording, her voice admitting she'd bankrupt our parents, was my trump card, a flicker of hope in the chaos she'd brought. I clutched my phone like a lifeline, her cruel words looping in my mind. She wanted to make them see her, even if it meant destroying us. But now, I had proof. I was ready to show Mom and Dad the truth, to take back my home and family. Yet, a chill ran through me. Melissa was cunning, and I couldn't underestimate her. Charles and I planned carefully. We'd invite my parents over again, play the recording, and present the forged bank statements together. No tears or theatrics could dodge that evidence. But as I texted Mom to set a date, Melissa's laughter drifted from the living room, where she was rearranging my bookshelves. "This place could use some style," she called, tossing my novels into a box. My blood boiled, but I stayed quiet. Let her think she was winning. I'd strike when she least expected it. The next day, I worked from home, my laptop open to a design project I could barely focus on. Melissa was out, thank God, giving me a rare moment of peace. I backed up the recording to my cloud, just in case. As I sipped coffee, a knock startled me. A man in a suit stood at my door, holding an envelope. "Jennifer Caldwell?" he asked. I nodded, confused. He handed me the envelope and left without a word. My hands shook as I tore it open, a cease and desist letter, accusing me of unlawful recording and invasion of privacy. Melissa's name was all over it, claiming I'd violated her rights and demanding I destroy any recordings or face legal action. My heart sank. How did she know? Had she seen me outside her door? Hacked my phone? This was her negative twist, a vicious counterstrike to silence me. I called Charles, my voice trembling. "She knows about the recording," I said, reading him the letter. "She's threatening to sue me." He cursed softly. "She's bluffing, Jen, but it's a smart move. She's trying to scare you into backing off." He paused. "We need to act fast. Show your parents the recording before she spins this further." Panic clawed at me. What if Mom and Dad believed her legal threats over my truth? I imagined her sobbing, claiming I'd spied on her, twisting my fight into betrayal. But the recording was too damning to abandon. I had to push forward, even if it meant risking everything. That night, Melissa waltzed in, her smile sharp as a blade. "Get my mail, Jen?" she asked, leaning against the counter. My skin crawled. She knew exactly what she'd done. "You're playing dirty," I said, my voice low. "But I'm not scared of you." Her laugh was cold. "You should be. Keep pushing, and you'll regret it." She sauntered off, leaving me seething. Her threat only fueled me. She thought she could bully me into silence, but I'd spent my life cleaning up her messes. Not this time. I texted Mom and Dad confirming they'd come tomorrow. I'd play the recording, show the documents, and lay it all bare. Melissa might have her claws in them, but I'd fight with everything I had. My home, my family, my peace, they were worth it. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, "You've got this, Jen." It was a small comfort, but it was enough to keep me going. Melissa's cease and desist letter sat on my kitchen counter, its words like a venomous bite. My Seattle bungalow, once My sanctuary felt like a chessboard where she'd just played a brutal move. That recording, her voice admitting she'd bankrupt our parents, was my strongest weapon. But now she'd turned it against me, accusing me of invasion of privacy. My heart pounded as I reread her threat to sue. How had she known I'd recorded her? Had I been careless, left my phone unlocked? The thought made my skin crawl, but I couldn't let her scare me into silence. I was fighting for my home, my family, my life. Charles came over, his face grim as he scanned the letter. "She's trying to corner you, Jen," he said, setting it down. "This is a bluff to shut you up, but it's clever. If she pushes this legally, it could get messy." His words sank in, heavy. Messy meant time, money, stress, things I couldn't afford. But backing down meant letting her win, letting her dismantle our family with her schemes. I couldn't do that. "We're meeting my parents tomorrow," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm playing the recording, showing the forged statements. She can threaten all she wants. I'm done playing nice." Charles nodded, but his eyes held worry. "Just be ready," he said. "She's got a knack for twisting things." That night, I barely slept, my mind replaying her voice on that recording. I'll squeeze what I can from them, make them see me. It wasn't just about money. It was personal. A vendetta I didn't fully understand. Growing up, Melissa always craved attention, stealing the spotlight while I faded into the background. But this was betrayal on a new level, and I was the only one standing in her way. The next morning, I found her in my kitchen, sipping coffee from my favorite mug, her smile sharp. "Sleep well, Jen?" she asked, her tone mocking. I clenched my fists, resisting the urge to snap. "Enjoying your little power trip?" I shot back. Her eyes narrowed, but she just laughed and walked away, leaving her mug unwashed. Her confidence rattled me. She knew about the recording, but she wasn't scared. Why? I spent the day preparing, backing up the recording again, printing the forged bank statements. Charles helped me organize everything, his calm presence keeping me grounded. "You're doing the right thing," he said, squeezing my hand. "They'll hear you this time." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Mom and Dad had dismissed me before, blinded by Melissa's tears. What if they did it again? As evening approached, I tidied the living room, trying to reclaim some control. Melissa was out, another errand, giving me space to breathe. I set out the evidence on the coffee table, the forged documents next to my phone, ready to play her confession. My parents were due any minute, and my stomach churned with nerves. This was my chance to expose her, to take back my home and protect our family. But her legal threat loomed, a dark cloud. If she followed through, could I fight it? Could I afford to? The doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. Mom and Dad stood there, their faces tired but hopeful, expecting another reconciliation. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening. Melissa thought she'd silenced me, but I was about to turn the tables. This was my fight, and I was ready to face her, whatever it took. Melissa's cease and desist letter burned in my mind, a desperate move to keep me quiet. My Seattle bungalow, once my sanctuary, was a war zone, and I was done letting her control the battlefield. Her recorded confession, scheming to bankrupt our parents, and those forged bank statements were my weapons. But her legal threat had shaken me. I couldn't risk losing everything. I needed to fight smart, and that meant getting help. Charles suggested a lawyer, and the next morning I called a friend from work, Sarah, who recommended a local attorney, Ms. Karen Holt. I met her in her small downtown office, the city's gray skyline visible through the window. I laid out everything: Melissa's invasion, the debts, the forged documents, the recording, her legal threat. Karen's sharp eyes scanned the evidence, her pen tapping. "This is serious, Jennifer," she said. "The recording's tricky. Washington's a two-party consent state, but the forged statements and her use of your address give you grounds for eviction. We can draft a formal order and protect your parents' finances." Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. I still had to face Mom and Dad, make them see Melissa's betrayal. That evening, they arrived at my house, their faces heavy with worry. Melissa was there, lounging on my couch, her smirk daring me to act. I took a deep breath, Charles by my side, and started. "Mom, Dad, I know you think I'm being harsh, but you need to hear this. I played the recording, Melissa's voice chilling the room. I'll squeeze what I can from them, make them see me. Then I showed the forged statements, Dad's name twisted into her lies. Mom gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Dad's face hardened, staring at Melissa. Is this true? He asked, his voice low. Melissa's eyes widened, her act crumbling. It's not what it sounds like, she stammered. Jen's twisting everything, but Karen had prepped me. I handed Dad a letter from her, formal notice of eviction, citing Melissa's fraudulent use of my address and the forged documents. She's been using you, I said. Her Portland business failed because she faked collateral in your names. She's hiding from debts here. Mom's eyes filled with tears, but Dad nodded slowly, reading the eviction notice. Melissa, you need to explain, he said. For the first time, her confidence cracked. She mumbled about mistakes and needing help, but the truth was out. Mom looked at me, her voice trembling. Jen, why didn't you tell us sooner? I swallowed the hurt. I tried. You didn't listen. Melissa stormed out, slamming the door. But the fight wasn't over. Karen's team was already moving to freeze Dad's accounts, protecting their savings. My parents were shaken, starting to grasp the damage. I'd won this round, but the cost was heavy. Trust fractured. My home still not mine. One step remained, getting Melissa out for good. The eviction notice sat on my coffee table, its stark words a quiet victory. My Seattle bungalow, battered by Melissa's schemes, felt like mine again, but the air was heavy with loss. Her recorded confession and forged bank statements had finally broken through Mom and Dad's denial, exposing her plan to bankrupt them. Yet, as I stood in my living room, the silence wasn't the relief I'd expected. I'd fought to reclaim my home, but the cost was a fractured family, and I wasn't sure I'd ever feel whole. Melissa left the next morning. I watched from the porch as she loaded her U-Haul, her face tight with shame. No tears, no apologies, just a cold glance as she climbed into the truck and drove away. My heart twisted. She was my sister, once my playmate, now a stranger who'd nearly destroyed us. I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was a hollow ache. She'd chased some twisted need to be seen, and it had cost her everything. Mom and Dad stayed behind, their faces etched with grief. Dad clutched the financial reports Karen had sent, detailing the accounts Melissa had tangled in her Portland scam. We're sorting it out, he said, his voice rough, repaying what we can. Mom hugged me, her tears soaking my shoulder. We should have listened, Jen, she whispered. I nodded, but the hurt lingered. Their trust in her had blinded them to me, and that scar wouldn't fade soon. Karen's team had frozen the fraudulent accounts, saving most of Dad's pension. But the damage was done, debts to settle, trust to rebuild. I changed my locks, updated my address protections, and set firm boundaries. No more uninvited guests, no more bending for family. My bungalow was my fortress now, every creak of its hardwood a reminder of what I'd fought for. As days passed, I found a wary peace. Charles helped me repaint the living room, the soft blue erasing Melissa's chaos. Work steadied me, my designs flowing again. But at night, I'd sit on my porch, staring at the Seattle stars, wondering why Melissa had turned on us. I'd always been the fixer, the one who made room for her. Now I saw the truth. I didn't owe anyone my peace. That clarity was my twist. Not her downfall, but my rise. I was stronger, freer, standing tall on my own. I mourned the family we'd been, but I didn't regret my fight. Melissa's betrayal had forced me to claim my worth, to protect what was mine. I'd walk forward, cautious but unbroken, my home a symbol of my resilience. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine again, and that was enough. What would you fight for, even if it broke your heart? Drop a comment, share your story. I want to hear it. Like and subscribe for more, because every battle shapes who we become. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.